in your head. You've put your courage to the test, laid all your doubts to rest.
Hi everyone, welcome to a new episode of Intuitive Queens podcast from your intuition queen. Today I have the pleasure to have with me Rachel Stewart, who is a podcaster and a vlogger, and she works with women in helping them to discover themselves and reach their goals. Hi Rachel, welcome.
Hello, it's so much fun to be here, and we've already had a phone call and gotten to talk a little bit, so it's exciting to get into this. My name is Rachel Stewart, and I apologize to everyone. My voice is not normally like this. I feel like I sound like a frog, so please forgive me today. But I live in San Diego. I have a lot of experience in the corporate world doing primarily sales and management. And then about 10 years ago, I was really feeling like I wanted something with a little more purpose and meaning. And so I shifted into the world of nonprofit or charity. And that's what I've been doing for a little over 10 years, is working for a nonprofit in San Diego who does a lot of community involvement. We connect volunteers and people with causes. And so it's been an amazing experience. But oh my gosh, I have learned a lot. That this time with this nonprofit has filled up my entire 30s. And now I've just ventured into my 40s. So I'm barely there. And I have learned so much over the 10 years that I've been of my 30s. And so that's what I do. I spend a lot of time helping women specifically kind of find their purpose, define their path. And that's what makes my life complete. So I'm ready to get into this.
Yay! Thank you. And thank you for explaining what you do a little bit more deeply and extensively. So you said that you worked in the corporate for a while and then you decided to change and go into the non-profit and stuff. What was the thing that made you shift? Because I know you told me a little bit about your experience, and I'd like for you to tell us a little bit more about that moment, because I know this is going to resonate with so many of our listeners. So if you could tell us a little bit how you felt, what was going on, and what made you want to move.
Yeah, while I was in that season, it wasn't so much fun, but when I look back on it, I love watching the evolution of my life, how my purpose and my desires shifted. Coming out of college, I was going to climb the corporate ladder. That's all I wanted to do. I wanted to make a lot of money. I wanted to be successful. I really didn't have a specific industry or niche where I wanted to see that happen. And so I was working for a very large rental car company right out of school. They are amazing, and I got so much training. I worked with great people. I was progressing up the ladder. I was promoted several times pretty quickly. And in all of this, I was struggling to find relevance, I guess. Like, what am I doing that is making an impact on someone? And so within a short amount of time, within 2 or 3 years of being involved in this and going so quickly, which I do like the fast pace of a corporate world, but I was struggling to see how I was contributing anything to make the world a better place or to impact even one person's life. And so I went through a phase of probably about 18 months to 2 years of wrestling with, okay, like, is there a way that I can do this within the job that I have? The grass is never greener, so to me, like, jumping ship and doing something extreme like joining the Peace Corps, that wasn't necessarily the answer. So I was trying to get to know myself a little more. I mean, I was like 24 or 25. So how much do you really know yourself at that age? And trying out different things. I ended up through this I like health. I've always been an athlete. And so I thought, well, maybe I will try. I thought about social work. And so I talked to some people about that, but I have a business degree and there was no way that I could make that transition without going back to school and getting an entirely new degree. And I don't love school that much, so that wasn't an option. So I tried social work. I looked at some other things kind of connected to that and just could like physical therapy. That was something else where I thought, okay, that's like legitimately helping people, but I don't know that that is the right fit for me. And because I loved fitness and did athletics growing up, I ended up getting into personal training. And so I worked with a couple of different gyms. I taught classes. One of my favorite classes, as I was beginning to tiptoe into this arena, I worked with a group of seniors, and we did this group fitness class, and they were my favorite people, favorite group out of my entire life. They were so awesome. They were probably in their 70s and 80s, and we would get together and do these aerobics where you were mostly sitting in a chair and moving your arms and legs. So it was really cute. But that sparked something in me, and because I love the interaction with people as well. And so I won't say that I transitioned well, because when I left my corporate job, I was feeling burnt out. I wasn't performing well. I hung on too long. And that is definitely a lesson that I have learned from that experience. It wasn't fun. I was miserable. And because I wasn't doing well at work, my managers and my employees, they weren't having a great time either. And so it wasn't necessarily a happy ending. But what I did, so I didn't finish poorly. I was actually able to move into a part-time role with that company so that I could work on pursuing some of these other things in my life. But I waited way too long. And I'm going to pause for a second, just in case I've been rambling, and if you
No, go
redirect me
ahead.
or anything. Okay. So as I moved into personal training, I started realizing I made a lot less money, but I was so much happier. And that was way more important to me, to be fulfilled and to feel like I was contributing something. That's not for everyone. Some people really have a gift of leading in a high capacity, leading in a marketplace situation where you are, running a Fortune 500 company, and you may have hundreds of employees under you, and that is fulfilling for you.
Yeah.
I thought that's where I would head, and those were my initial goals coming out of school. But I'm a people person. I love helping even one person at a time. And so that's kind of how I started my transition, and then ended up working for this nonprofit, fulfilled many roles within the company, and ended up at an executive level. And that was just wonderful to take the experience that I had from 10 years and help implement strategy and making greater change, mostly in San Diego with a little bit of a global reach as well.
Okay, wow, you've talked about so many interesting things. So I'm just going to try to follow and ask you a couple of questions. First of all, I just want to say congratulations on you for knowing that the corporate world wasn't exactly what you were looking for when you were only 25. Because if I have to think about me 25, I was still like, yeah, whatever, I'm going to be this.
Right.
And I think it takes courage to actually, after you have studied so much and you have this idea that you're going to become something, stopping and say, this doesn't feel right. Let me try something that has nothing to do with corporate. There are less money involved, and I'm just going to try and be happy. So
there's so much pride and vulnerability wrapped up in that, especially when you have portrayed, at that age, it feels like, I've been communicating this for all my life, when it's only been a few years. But there, and the circles that you run in, status was a big deal. And so to step down, whether and it was mutual, it was myself and my management team who was like, this is not working out. It was hard. It was really tough emotionally and mentally. It took some time to process through all of that.
Yeah, and I can imagine 15 years ago, that wasn't a thing that everybody would do. I can just imagine people telling you, what are you doing? You've been, you are up to go here and there. Well, now it's more like a common thing. And
Exactly. Yeah,
I
the
know
gig economy.
Exactly. And I know when I go to speak to students university, they already think about, their question now is, I'm not sure if I want to go freelance or if I want to start working in a company. And I'm like, freelance. You still have to study.
Right.
And for us, for our generation, that wasn't a question at all. Like
No.
freelance, you finish school, you go freelance. Who are you? No, that's amazing. And then you mentioned how that made you happier as opposite to what you were doing. What exactly was that thing that was giving you that joy? You mentioned about, of course, helping other people, but
Yeah.
I guess there is a little bit something else behind that.
I think as I learned more about my identity, I think purpose is, there's not necessarily an overarching purpose to your life. You'll have seasons of change, and but life purpose, there can be a thread. So there's like a common thread that runs through those seasons. And when I talk about life purpose, whether it's on my own podcast or when I'm working with clients doing coaching, that's what I'm looking for. Not that you have to define, okay, what am I going to do for my entire life? Or what is my 10-year plan? But what are some of those core values that become the common thread that connect every season together? And so that's what I was discovering, is those little core values that create the foundation for everything that I've done now over the last 10 years, or that I will do in the future. And so it was the personal contact, the one-on-one conversations of getting to know someone. Because even in personal training, I'm thinking about that group of seniors that I worked with as well, but in personal training, there's a lot of psychology involved, and there's a lot of coaching and motivation. It's so much more than just teaching someone how to bench press with the correct form. And so having that opportunity to get into someone's life and hear their story, that I love that part of it, and being able to help them take even one step forward in their journey, whatever that means, because it's so unique and it's tailored to every individual. But that's really what began resonating with me when I was doing personal training. And again, it has carried me through. So now everything that I do, even if it's not part of my direct job, I know that that is important to me. And so I find other ways to incorporate that into my life, because it feeds my soul. It invigorates me and it gives me energy. So again, it might not be part of my job description and things that I do, but I know that that is life-giving, and those are things I need to be aware of and incorporate them into my life.
Yeah, and I agree with you, and I love that you touch upon this, because I feel that the job description, for too many people, the job description defines them, when actually whatever hobbies you have outside, whatever gives you pleasure on the outside, can be brought within and help you find a better way to do your job, or just to feel happier, if that's what you want to do. Of course, if you're miserable in your job, or you want to change, but it's how you bring joy to your everyday life that makes a difference in your life, and expanding your views and what you do.
Right. Well, I think even if I go back, so what I've learned now, and even in my first few years of personal training, if I could have taken those lessons and understanding what was life-giving for me, I could have incorporated that into my corporate job. And so focusing on relationships and really coaching people and leading even the individual employees that I worked with, I feel like that might have made more of a connection. Because again, it's like you said, it wasn't part of my job description to necessarily be that type of a mentor. But if I had realized the value that I place on that, then maybe I would have found fulfillment. So yeah, it doesn't have to be in your job description, but you have to find out what it is that's in your heart that you enjoy doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes, you do that and it doesn't work because that's not where you're supposed to be. That's not supposed to be your job. Maybe what is happening to you is a way to tell you, figure out something different, because this is not working. So as you said, and I like that you said that before, and I wrote a post on Instagram about a couple of weeks ago, where I said, you need to experiment, because one of the questions that I get asked the most is like, how do I find my purpose? As if it's something you go buy, like, tell me where I can buy it. And no, just try different things, you know. And you said, I wanted to go there, but I then didn't want to study, or I need this, so I tried and I had fun and it went. And so I continued. But it's that curiosity that brings you to find something that makes your soul happy, and then you build up from there.
Absolutely. When people ask me, well, I want to find out what I'm good at, I need to find out what I love. Okay, well, you're not going to do that by reading about things. You have to go and try them. And so there's no such thing as failure. And I think that's a more common concept now. But to go, and again, we were talking about, you know, the gig economy, and people are okay with trying some different things, but you won't get to know yourself unless you just try something. And there's, who cares? Like, whoever's passing judgment on you that says, oh my gosh, I can't believe you only did that job for 3 months, or, oh, well, that didn't work out. What's wrong with you? Who cares? You need to be true to who you are and figure out what you should be doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we'll stop thinking about what other people do, because your life, it's your life. If you don't live it, nobody else will live it for you. So it's the best way. When you were talking about changing, as you just mentioned, changing so many times, I'm just curious about what was going on or inside of you in terms of feelings, and what was going on outside of you, and how did you manage to go through it?
So I am not well, especially in my 20s, I am not much of an external processor, to my detriment. I do not think that that is healthy. So even if you happily categorize yourself as being strong enough to hold things in, stop it. Just don't do that. And so in my 20s, I would say that I carried a lot of stress, and definitely physically, you know, like I would be so tense all the time. I am a runner. And so that was a big way of how I could kind of process emotions, was getting it out. But going through that time, and I also, like, I'm a believer in therapy. I've been in therapy on and off throughout my life, just sometimes to go and get like a health check. I think it's good to have someone not just listen to you, but someone who knows how to ask you good questions and kind of draw that out, especially if you're not a good processor. And so I don't know that I have any really good tips on that. I think emotionally, I would just suppress a lot of things and push it down, and just, you know, keep trying to press on and fight through. And I realized that a lot of that was coming out. So I lived by myself a lot in my 20s. Even when I was in relationships, I never wanted to give up my own place. And then I moved back in with my parents for a short amount of time in my late 20s, voluntarily. I thought, you know, I want to travel again in this period of just trying different things. And once you are in a close environment with other people, you start to see what's really going on with you. And I think that was when I started seeing, like, okay, like I have a lot of emotional baggage that I'm carrying around, and it's starting to project onto these other people who were close to me, because I just can't hold it in any longer. But there is stress. And so even though, yes, it is healthy to get out there and try these things, you need multiple people and multiple layers in your life. You need people who are on the same plane as you. Like, who else is going through these same things that you can commiserate with and say, well, how's that working out for you? It's almost like a best practices.
Yeah.
What are you learning through this? Okay, well, here's where I am. Okay, I'll try that, you know, and you're just trading tips and sharing the journey. And then you need people out in front of you. I feel like you have to have this whole mix of balance. So you need people, and not that they've walked the exact same path as you, but you need people who are maybe a little older, a little more mature, and who can reflect back and be honest with you and say, okay, like, this was a great try, or this was something positive that you did, or this was stupid. Like
Mm.
you shouldn't be doing this, or you don't need to do that. You need to get out of it. So you need someone who is in front of you. And then I also think to balance that out, you need to look for people who are kind of behind you. And who do you see who needs someone in front of them in their life?
Mm.
And so with all of that, it's kind of like a yin and a yang of the balance of input into your life, but then also the outflow, because when you are giving out, it does make you assess who you are, where you are, and what you're processing. Because for me, I'm hard on myself. Like even now, like if I'm working with a client, I want to make sure that I am walking the walk, not just
Mm.
talking the talk.
Yeah.
So when you decide to speak into someone else's life, you need to check your own stuff, you know?
That's a good advice.
Yeah, for sure. Like, don't put up this facade, and doing that really helps. So I know that that doesn't necessarily get into my own journey, but I'm actually still, well, not still, but I'm really excited to spend some time this year kind of going back into that phase of being like 25 to 30 years old and trying to unpack that, because I know that there were a lot of feelings. There was so much emotion going on. And I think even now, many years later, it would be really healthy for me to try to go back and feel
Mm.
some of those feelings, because that was like, I knew that there were feelings there, but I didn't want to feel them. And now I'm in a space where I'm okay with feeling like whatever is going on. And I know that even the crappy stuff, you need to feel it. You
Yeah.
need to give yourself like a, a time limit. You can't live in those feelings forever, but it's really healthy to feel them and understand what's going on. So that's a little bit of my journey for this year, is going back and trying to pull up those emotions.
I love it. I love it. And you're so right. You need to feel the emotions, bad or good. It doesn't matter, because we tend to want to just be happy and joyful and have fun and not feel the sadness, the frustration, whatever else that is coming through. But yes, I feel that it's information that is coming for us in order to understand what's going on and understand how to move forward, because otherwise you're going to take a path that not necessarily is going to be the right one, and those things still come up at some point. Even
Yeah.
if you think, okay, it's behind me, it isn't, unless you really work through it. And yeah, and as you said, I think everybody has a process and has a timeline, and probably your was to kind of skip through and then go back now and be like, okay, whatever it is that I still need to look back at and work on.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So now you are working for this charity company. You're also working with women, and you have your side business, you have your podcast, you blog about. Tell us a little bit more about this phase of your life.
Yes. I never thought I would be a side hustle kind of person. And when, yeah, I grew up very conservatively. And so you have one job, again, the age that we are. And so it doesn't have to be the job that you have for life, but whatever job I have, that's just what takes up all my time, my mental capacity. And a couple of years ago, I started seeing that I really didn't have any strong female women in my life
Mm.
who were guiding me and coaching me, and going, oh my gosh, I'm really, now I should say, but because I know people who know me will listen to this, I had some women in my life. So I still have an amazing group of women, but specifically with my career
Mm-hmm.
and kind of the trajectory, like the potential that I knew I had, I didn't have anyone who was out in front of me who I could look at and say, oh, okay, this is where I want to go. Because a lot, especially, so I work for a faith-based nonprofit. And in that world, it can be difficult to find strong women.
Mm.
And so I started seeing this gap in my life. And I thought, okay, it's no one else's fault but my own if I don't create that network for me that is going to provide wisdom, that is going to provide the care from that angle. And so you can't ever blame something on the people that you work for or your circle of friends, if you're not getting what you need from a development standpoint, you need to go out and find that. And that's kind of the line that got drawn for me. So I did nationally, like I have friends who have done this a little more on a local level, but there was a network, not a network, but actually some publications. And I just started going out and making lists of people, actually both men and women, who were functioning in my field that I wanted to learn from. And I spent several months doing that, of just scheduling phone calls, if I could get a little video session. If they were in close proximity to me, I would meet with them, but I knew that to continue developing, I was going to have to create this network myself and go out and find these leaders who could speak into my life. And as I was doing that, reaching out to both men and women, I thought, okay, specifically in my current industry, if there's not this visibility. So I did eventually find a group of just women who are executives for nonprofits. And that was amazing. But it was really hard to find this obscure group. And I thought, okay, well, women need this. And I also think that you and we kind of live in this world of influencers or podcasters, and we think, oh my gosh, like it's so inundated. They don't need like one more voice or whatever. But that's not true, because when you look at the scope of all women or all people who need someone speaking into their life and need someone sharing their own journey, we are kind of a minority. And I had to remind myself of that and go, yeah, also my voice is different than yours.
Exactly.
So even though I think you and we kind of focus on similar topics, we come at it from
We deliver in a different way, of course.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
And so I thought, so I had an idea for a book. That was the first thing that popped up, and I'm still working on that, but that is a much longer process because when you start writing, you realize how much of a great writer you're not. So that is taking
don't
a
tell
very
me
long
that.
time.
I know it.
Yeah, it's been a little painful, but a good learning process. And then I thought, okay, well, that's going to be an extended period of time. What is a faster way that I could begin getting my voice out there? And I had like nothing on social media. Like I'm not the kind of person that puts myself out there. So this was so weird. This was very inspirational. And whatever you feel your higher power is for you, that's what this was for me. It was definitely like God saying, okay, you need to do this. And it's not about the number of followers. It's not about the success rate. It is about you finding other women like you are going to connect well. They're going to have your same kind of approach to life. They're going to have similar thought patterns, even similar ways of speaking and relating to the world around them. So about a little less than 2 years ago, I started the podcast, which is called Pieces of Grit. I was really inspired by the concept of grit, which is passion and perseverance. And there's a book aptly named Grit. And that wasn't the basis of my inspiration, but I found this book, and this researcher clarifies that grit has nothing to do with the talent you're born with, your genetic predisposition. It's all about kind of digging your heels in and saying like, all right, world, like I'm going to do this, or, whatever you're committing to, and just having that passion and perseverance to failure can be involved in there, but the passion and perseverance to keep trying and to refuse to give up or to quit. And that has become such a guiding light for my own life, and a message that I want to get out to other women, that before you can dig your heels in, you have to know what you're running after. And so it circles back full circle to, like, what's your current purpose? What are your core values? What are those things that you can't live without? And so then digging your heels in and figuring out how to integrate those into your life, whether it is part of your job description or whether it's something that you have to go out and search for and be really intentional about bringing in. So I try to provide stories from my own life, some tips and resources, certainly not all from me, because there are so many other great resources and people out there. So sharing vlogs, sharing other podcasts. I love bringing women on. I'm a little bit obsessed with entrepreneurs because I think they have so much of this gritty quality. You know, they try, they fail. Like, how many
Oh yeah.
entrepreneurs have multiple failed ventures? And so women are I only have women on the show. Definitely entrepreneurs. I just had someone on there who, she's the president of a charity that fights human trafficking all over the world and trying to, you know, rescue girls and educate families on all of these things. So that is, like, as you can see, like, I get a little more
Oh
even
yeah.
animated as I start talking about it. I get really excited because it is, I bring on these women who I hope are exemplifying, you know, these levels of leadership where anyone can get to. But my thing, the premise is that what, if you're a mom, you can be the best freaking mom ever if you just kind of you have to dig your heels in. I know I keep saying that phrase over and over again, but whatever women are called to do in their life, just go at it. Like, go at it 110%, because you can be successful. And successful is a very subjective term. We can't
Yeah.
compare ourselves to anyone else. But for your own journey, you can be super successful. And so that's everything that I do. I want women specifically to find their lane, their path. What do you want to do and what should you be doing? What can you thrive at? And then kill it.
Yay!
Sorry, I know, I need a sip. That was a
No,
long
well,
time.
you know, you need an applause and we need some cheering here. I'm gonna head it off.
Yeah, that is
No, like,
my soapbox. And I get sad for women who, not sad, that's not the right word at all. I would say, so part of the idea for the podcast came after tons and tons of conversations, and I wasn't really even coaching at the time, but women would say, I know that there is something bigger in me. I don't know how to get it out, and I'm not even sure what it is. But most women that I talk to, they know that there is something more in them that they haven't tapped into yet. And so that's my goal, through whether it's a coaching session or whether it is through the podcast, is to help women dig a little deeper, tap into that untapped potential and pull it out. So
yes, 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 and yes, yes, and I see your excitement because it's exactly like mine, and the reason why I go hunt for more connection, more women to share their story, because once you hear someone that does what you might want to do or feels the same way that you do, you might decide to take action. I love that. One thing that I want to highlight that you said is when you said that you started to reach out to the people that you wanted to connect with, you wanted more of, because I think that there is a lot of fear of rejection there. So people are afraid to go out and ask to the CEO, the executive, whatever role the person has, but that inspires you and you would want to have a chat, you would want to ask questions. But a lot of times we think too much about, oh, if this person is too famous, this person is probably too busy, I'm not going to bother her, I'm not going to bother him, or I'm not going to do it. And instead your messages go out there, reach out for those people. Worst case scenario, I mean, you're back to where you were, that you didn't
right.
talk to that person. Best case scenario, you talk to that person, you got a lot of inspiration, and now you want to move forward, whatever it is that you're looking for. So I just want to put it out there and just go and say,
This is one of my absolute favorite things to work on with women, because I realize that my personality is very direct. Like, I'm not rude or abrasive, but I don't mind asking someone a question that might be odd, or that I might get an answer that I don't like. And I realize that that is not the case with a lot of women. And so if that sounds intimidating and you're thinking, okay, I do need to expand my network, I need to start creating a network from the ground up, but like, oh my gosh, like, how are they going to respond and what will they say? First of all, people love people love sharing their own journey.
Yeah.
They love helping other people. And so it's very rare that you will get any kind of a rude response. They might not have time, but that has nothing to do with you. And even making the ask, if that's challenging and you don't know how to word a verbal ask or how to write an email or connect on social media, one of the things that I like to do is have women start with something smaller if that sounds really big. So there are some funny little exercises that I did not create on my own, and I actually don't know where they originated with, but okay, so what if you had a friend and you said, hey, will you come over and do my laundry? So you already know this person. It's not a huge ask. It's crazy. Who goes and does someone else's laundry? But it gets you in the habit of asking people things that you don't know how they're going to respond. And we have a bad habit of projecting onto people. You go, oh my gosh, they're not going to do that, or they're going to think I'm crazy. Okay, well, you can't make up their mind. You have no idea what they're thinking. And what if they say, sure? And even if they go, so in their head, they could be going, oh my gosh, why is she asking me to do her laundry? Is she okay? Is something wrong? But we aren't responsible for what someone else is thinking. And maybe they have another follow-up question for you, or maybe they say, yeah, I don't really understand why, but I'll come and do your laundry. So that's it. Like, we are not responsible for the way that other people are feeling or what they are thinking. The next layer up might be, maybe it's someone you know, or it could be a random stranger, or like someone at work. Just ask someone for $5 or, 5 pounds if you live in London, like whatever is like a small amount, but still like weird. And so if you were to go and ask a friend or a coworker, hey, can I have $5? Don't give them any reason. If they ask you why, then you can give them a reason. And they might give you $5, and not that you would even keep it, but it's about the practice of progressing in asking people things. That, again, we are not responsible for the way that people respond. And I also think that as women, we place a lot of weight and emphasis on that. We try to assume what someone else is going to do. And because of the caring nature that we all have, we are trying to care for them before we even know, like, what they, again, coworker, you probably know about how much money they make, but even thinking of what someone has in their purse or their wallet, you're like, oh, you might not have $5. That's not your responsibility. They might have $300 in their purse, and for whatever reason. So those are like some things that I like to work on women with, to get them to a point of being, and not comfortable. Being uncomfortable can be good. So that's another facet of it. Stretch yourself. However anxiety comes across in your body, like I'll just be honest, I tend to be a sweater. If I get a little nervous, I'm going to start sweating, and it's not going to be pretty. But when I feel a little bit of anxiety, I actually like it. It's because I know I'm pushing myself and I'm doing something that is going to make me grow. So it's also a little bit of kind of going back to talking about feeling the feelings. If you feel nervous or uncomfortable, live there for just a minute, not a long time, but try to figure out why you're feeling this way. Is it you, or are you worried about someone else and what they are thinking or feeling? And try to take a step forward anyway, because it's like working out. You have to grow that muscle before you're going to get stronger. And so you have to ask in order to be able to make bigger and better asks down the road.
Yes, I love it. And I love your exercises, your little tips. They are so funny, but at the same time, they are so useful. And I can tell you, from a person that didn't like asking, because in my head, I could do it. And if I really need to ask, it's because I can't do it. So I know how that feels about, because I struggle in asking for help or for something that I needed, because I'd rather do it myself. And then I went to a seminar with Jack Canfield, and he made us do a little exercise, which was now think about your main goal. We just worked about your breakthrough goal, okay, go around the room and start asking everybody if they can help you doing that.
Wow.
And it was amazing because it was like a room full, imagine a room full of like about 300-400 people, and you have to, so you will go around and you have to say no to 9 people, and on the 10th person you had to say yes. It didn't matter what they were asking you.
That's cool. Yeah.
So at the same time you were receiving 9 no's, and probably even more than that, because
Yes.
it was random. So we did the exercise, and towards the end, and I gave a lot of yeses. And towards the end, it's like, so who didn't receive a yes? And I was like, okay. But that exercise to me really made me switch and go, okay, I need to stop doing this, and catch myself when I'm about to ask, and then I go, no, wait, I can do it. Because there is
we take things personally when they're not.
Yeah.
Hearing no is not bad. Again, we're projecting, like, why is that other person saying no? Oh, it's probably about me. It's probably not about you.
Yeah.
It probably has something to do with what's going on in their life.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And once you learn, then you're comfortable with that, you know. And when I ask people to be on my podcast, sometimes people, I can see they read the message, they don't answer. Sometimes they're like, yeah, sure, let's organize. I'm like, okay, so what? And then they don't answer. Is it about me? No, maybe they're busy or whatever. My podcast doesn't make sense for them. Whatever the reason, it doesn't matter. Next, you know, you say no, I'm gonna go ask another person. So it's really getting into that mindset of being like, it's okay. Whatever happens, it's okay. As long as I get what I need. Yeah, I love it.
And it's like, I use this analogy when I talk to people about dating, but you think about trying on clothes. You have to try on a lot of different clothes to find something that fits well and something that you love. And so it's that way with so many other things in our lives. When you're asking for something, or in our context, when you're trying to find a guest to be on your show, I've had experiences where I might approach someone and we do like a little a little pre-recording call, and I talk to them and I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought this was going to be an amazing guest. This is terrible.
Yeah.
There's no chemistry. And so it's not a fit. So sometimes even the yeses don't work out. So if you hear a no, just kind of believe that is what do you say, like karma's way of telling you that this is not where you need to be. You just need to go try on something else.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, all right, Rachel, I'll talk to you forever about this topic. We need to wrap up. So tell us where we can find you, and if anybody wants to get in touch with you, and then if you want to give us a final tip.
My website is piecesofgrit.com, and I'm mostly on Instagram at Rachel the Stewart. I'm sure you'll have those links in the show notes so people can check it out there. Instagram is definitely where I'm most active. People can see the latest episodes of the podcast, any blogs that I put out. And if they want to get in touch with me, I am, I should say, unashamedly on there with my phone like all day. So you will get in touch with me very easily that way. And I think as far as like a final note, I think it would be get out there and do something. So especially if you've listened this far into this episode, then you probably are feeling like there is something more in your life. And even if you don't know what that is, go do something new. It doesn't matter. It's take a fitness class, go learn a new skill, go to a speech group or something where you can practice public speaking. Do something that gets you out of your comfort zone, and you will be amazed at what that triggers in you. Every time I do that, I start having ideas, or I'm like, oh, well, if I can do that, now I can do this. So I would say just get out there and try something new.
I love it. And it's so true. And you meet a lot of other people, and you never know what doors might open for you. So absolutely. Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Rachel. It's been such a pleasure talking to you and learning more about you.
Yes, of course, since we kind of do the same thing, I love everything that you're doing. And I'm so glad that we got connected.
Yay. Yay! Thank you so much. Well, that was a great conversation with Rachel. I hope you liked it. And if you did, if you want to get in touch with her, please do. If you liked it, please do subscribe either to the YouTube channel or to the podcast, and do leave comments. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask anything. I'm here for you. I hope you liked it. And if you can share it, subscribe, that would be amazing. And also, I'd like to let you know that I have a free discovery call that you can book anytime if you're in that situation where you feel like you want to find your purpose, you want to be more, do more, and just have a career that really makes you feel joyful. And as we said in the podcast today, when you can serve and be happy, please do book a call with me. You can find all the links in the show notes. And thank you so much for watching and listening, and I will see you and talk to you next week. Ciao.
Your heart is full and wanting more. Your future's at the door.